going into the 2024 elections and NDC preparing the stage with the primaries ahead of us for the delegate to choose who will lead the party. My guest is a Ghanaian diplomat and a politician. He entered politics in 1992. If you're a young man who is just following politicians, I'm sure you may be wondering, 1992, where were you? He's a former MP for Ayawaso Central. I never knew until when I started digging his background. And he lost to Sheikh I.C. Quay, who is also a very popular politician. He's a devout Muslim, the founder of the Zongo caucus, or I would say, yes, the Zongo caucus of the NDC, a former ambassador to Egypt as far back as 2012, when the late former president John Evans Atta-Mills was in the seat. And then in 2014, he was reappointed as ambassador to Saudi Arabia. And in 2018, he was re-elected as the third national vice chairman of the NDC. He is Alhaji Said Senari. Don't forget that in the 2022 NDC conference, he decided that for strategic reasons, he will not go for any position in the party, but will remain as an elder of the NDC. He's my guest tonight to talk about the NDC. Alhaji, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much.
How has it been? 17 years as a national executive, national vice chairman of the NDC. 17 years is a long time.
Yes, it is. Time flies so fast, as you know. I've been the longest serving national vice chairman of this great party of ours. And I think I see you do, in Keta. We're the two longest serving.
All right.
You know, until the
last congress.
Until the last congress that I decided for certain reasons, you know, I don't want to talk about it here. I decided to, you know, be a bench marker or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm ready. Like I said, I've been saying this all the time. I'm ready to serve this party.
So how has it been staying back and observing how things have unfolded since December last year when the NDC elected new national executive? Because there are bridges to be amended. There are issues that will have to bind the party together. Exactly. And of course, they should be reaching out to people like you who have larger constituencies, because as a founder of the Zongo caucus of the party, you have a large constituency. How has it been, and how are you preparing yourself to make sure the NDC remains very united?
You know, like we always say, I mean, the party is supreme. At the end of the day, no matter what differences are, you know, amongst us as a party, you know, ordinary members or whatever, from the top to the bottom, at the end of the day, you have to look at the party and say, this is the party that I love so much. This is the party that I want to work so hard. This is the party that I want to contribute my widow's mite to make sure that we come back to power in 2024. Because if we don't come back to power in 2024, we are doomed forever. You know, and the chances of us coming back is very great. So for me, I say no matter what differences that we have, you know, I had certain differences with certain people within the party, you know, but it will interest you to know. I mean, just a few days ago, I had a call. You know, I don't want to mention the person's name, you know, but the person called me. I was even shocked and surprised that he called me. And he said, look, Alhaji, let's forget about what has happened in the past and mend the bridges and all that. And for the sake of the party, let us all move forward to make sure that we have John Dramani Mahama elected and move on as a party. And I was very happy. I said, look, I'm glad that you saying this. I'm ready. He said, well, we'll have a meeting very shortly, you know, and I'm waiting for that particular meeting, you know, that we need to talk, you know, certain issues to see how or where the way forward for this great party of ours. We can't, as a party, we can't afford to lose this 2024 election. What happened in 2022 in 2020 is a big lesson for us. You know, there are so many things that went wrong, you know, in 2020. And for me, I say this. I say elections are won at the polling stations. And if you don't police your polling stations 100%, you will not win an election. And we saw what happened in 2020. And especially not even the polling stations alone, but the collation centers. Because at the end of the day, you may have your pink slip and all that, you may have your results intact, and you go to the collation center, things are changed, like what happened in 2020. But I tell my people, I tell our members of this great party, if you say you love the NDC party, then every single member must sacrifice himself for this great party of ours. Because if we don't win the 2024 election, we are doomed. Because this is exactly what the MPP government wants us to be. They don't want us to win. They know on paper. I say this, on paper, everything looks very green for us on paper. 100%. There's no two ways that we'll not win the 2024 elections. But as you know, politics, we say, is politics. There are so many tricks that go on. And if you don't take care, you go out there and give your opponent the blank check, then you are doomed forever.
So how energized is the grassroots base of the party? Because sometimes you have a feel that, and especially it comes from people who call into our programs, people who may send messages to you to pass on to people they assume you have a relationship with or you are close to. And you get the impression that they want to see more action on the ground. Do you have that feel, or you think it is overly exaggerated?
I'll just say a few things maybe here. During Jerry's time, and I would say Jerry's time for me was the best time of the NDC. Because at that particular time, look, in every single branch that you have in your constituency, when you go for meetings, you're going to address their branches. You will not find less than 200 people in that branch. But now, you're going to address a branch, you hardly may find 50 people there. There's a lot of work that has to be done. You need to get the grassroots. Because if you're the grassroots person, I say, look, you really want to help this great party, then you must sacrifice yourself.
What really could be the reason why the numbers may be dwindling? Is it a result of the kind of people who have been leading the party over the years, which may reflect those they really do not wish to be their representatives?
Some of them, I'll say yes. Some of them get very pissed, with certain leaders that they have within the branches and all that. Some of them feel that when things change, into the branches, only the executives that hold on to it. It doesn't trigger to what's it called, to the members. And this is what John Manwan was saying some time back ago when he visited us in the Ashanti region and all that. He said, look, whatever t-shirts that come in, whatever souvenirs that come in, give it out. Let the grassroots have it. That's the most important. Without them, we are finished. So for me, I say this, look, as a party, we need to work very, very hard. The chances of us winning the 2024 election is very, very bright. But I'll say, if we don't work that hard to get the party back into power, then we're going to have a
power may slip.
Power may slip.
We'll speak to the details about your party preparation towards the primaries, what the delegates must look out for, why it is of interest to anybody in the party to look at what will go on at the constituency level, because that is actually what will rejuvenate the party's enthusiasm, i.e. the grassroots participation. But let me just run by you a few comments on one or two national issues. Just yesterday, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa was at the court. The contempt case was dismissed. Just around the same time, he was revealing a few things he found out when he visited the US. And just around the same time as we are going to talk about the National Cathedral, we have Dr. Frimpong Boateng's expose, which is also indicting the integrity of the presidency.
Exactly.
How does this come to you as somebody who has been in government before, as a political activist, and so for a party in opposition must be a wake-up call on what Ghanaians expect?
Eric, I'll say this. Look, this government particularly, this is the most corrupt government in the history of Mother Ghana since independence. We've seen so many corrupt cases, you know. And for me, I say this to the Ghanaian people. If you're not going to have a change come 2024, and you still want to maintain this corrupt government into the system, then we are finished as a country. Because as we sit here, this country is completely broke. Completely. I mean, look at what happened in Parliament even yesterday, for instance. How can we be in so much debt and we receiving more, contracting more loans for who to pay at the end of the day? Look, they just passed on, what, was it $750 million? Why? For what? When you cannot even service, you are defaulted in your loan structures and all that kind of thing, and you are contracting more loans for this great country of ours. Why? That means, look, our grandchildren are the ones who are going to suffer. You know, how many years do we have more?
But critics on the ground are saying,
yeah,
members of your party who are in Parliament must equally share the blame. Some say, if you don't want to be part of the loan approval process, why were you in Parliament? You could have stayed out to demonstrate to Ghanaians that you don't want to be part of that business. But others are saying that not even all of them were present on the floor. And with the speaker's absence, if all of them were there, things could have changed.
Well, that's another thing. That's another problem that we have. That's another problem. I mean, you look at, we need the numbers. So where were they? That's not an excuse. I mean, if they were there, I don't think this bill would have passed. At the end of the day, you know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Exactly. So where were they? What's the excuse? Were they sick? Were they campaigning out there? You know, because they have their numbers. Because at the end of the day, look, they will make their homework so well. They'll make sure they call every single member of theirs to make sure that that day we want you in Parliament to come and vote for this particular bill. They know very well. They know what they are doing. This government, oh my God,
But the implications, you see, I took this out of the concern you raised about a government that is adding up to the public debt.
Exactly.
Now, should John Mahama win the 2024 elections, there'll be little space for him to operate.
It is not going to be easy.
So whatever will happen now, what the MPs will do today is what will either show Ghanaians that indeed we cannot blame you, or the party system is not strong enough to whip its own MPs to line.
Exactly.
That's basically what people can do.
I'll say this. Look, inshallah, when we come back to power, inshallah, I know Allah will definitely answer our prayers. And if John Mahama is elected, I believe that the president will come out and let the Ghanaian people know exactly what is in the coffers. Let them know how much we have, how much is left, what kind of debt, what kind of what's it called, facility that is there for us to service and all that kind of thing. Ghanaians have to know exactly 100% exactly what is going on. Without that, believe me, at the end of the day, they will not even believe us. You know what I'm trying to say? So we need to showcase to the Ghanaian people if we are elected, because it's not going to be easy for John Mahama come 2024. Assuming that we win, inshallah, we're going to win. It's not going to be easy. I mean, they have crippled the economy. And they're going to leave the dirty work for John Mahama to come and do, for us to revive the economy. And you look at today, go to the port today. It's so empty there. Go to the port. Somebody who imports a vehicle, for instance, and brings out a vehicle, a cost of a vehicle of $5,000 or $10,000, he winds up paying duty of almost $20,000. For what? I mean, look at the taxes. Look, I'll tell you an example. Look at the energy sector, for instance. There are so many companies that have left Mother Ghana here and relocated to Ivory Coast. They've relocated to neighboring countries. Now I ask myself, and meanwhile, Ivory Coast, for instance, they buy from us. They buy electricity when they are short. They buy, you know. So how come Ivory Coast? How do they make it? Meanwhile, we're charging so much heavy tariffs on these manufacturers. How are they going to make the profit? They can't afford it. So a lot of them will relocate at the end of the day. We're going to lose a lot of them come years to come if nothing is done. If the government, look, the taxation, look at the fuel, for instance. Today I was just going around, had to go and buy fuel. A few days ago, it was 12.49. Today it was 12.64. In another few days, the fuel will go up to 13 point something. So there's
as a leader of one of the strongest political parties, which has been in government before and now in opposition. I've heard Martin Kpebu, I've heard Imani Africa, I've heard other people suggest that the NDC, which is the alternative party that can come to power, is not demonstrating anger enough to send that strong signal to government that, look, you can't take more than you deserve.
And well, I may agree on that. I think that's why there's a lot of work that has to be done from national. They will really have to, whip the support base, really have to hit the streets, and make all those organizations join up in those demonstrations and all that. Let the government know that, look, you cannot have your way all the time like that. You are there to serve the people of this great country. And when you are messing up, then we have to correct you. For all the mistakes that, look, this country, look, I don't even want to talk about it. This country is in a total mess, my brother, Eric. It's in a total mess. Look, when I sit down sometimes, it's like electric, you get shocked. Sometimes you just sit there and start thinking. At the end of the day, we're not even moving forward as a country. Look at what has happened. Today, we're still waiting for the 3 billion, what's it called, IMF, and it's still not been approved, because there's no money in the system. Today, the dollar is falling. It's artificial. But you wait till the 3 billion or whatever comes in and they execute all those monies out and all that. The dollar will shoot up again. The dollar will never come down.
Well, my guest is Alhaji Said Senari, is a former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, former ambassador to Egypt, former third national vice chairman of the NDC. He's been there for 17 years, a former MP for Ayawaso. Is it Central?
Central.
Right. And I can add on and on and on. We want to talk about the NDC today. And of course, our focus will be on both the presidential and the parliamentary primaries. I'll be sharing some data with you. But before that, let's speak briefly. How have you seen the presidential campaign so far?
It looks very good. Very excellent for John Dramani Mahama. I mean, there's no two ways about it. John would definitely win the primaries come May 13th. But I have a concern. I will say this. If John has to win, we want to win very massive and very big. I don't expect the delegates to disappoint John Dramani Mahama come November 13th by making sure that they don't give John Dramani Mahama less than 98.5% of the votes.
Have you been following his campaign? We'll be sharing some videos we've put together of the two main candidates who are active on social media or maybe the mainstream media with their activities. And I'm sure while we are having a conversation, you've seen it. His message is both touching base with the grassroots and at the same time assuring Ghanaians of what he will do if he should win the 2024 elections. And of course, Kobina Dufo has also been touching base with the party, speaking to them about what he brings on board. I've heard Kojo Bonsu here and there. You have been monitoring them. You think the message is cut for what they are doing at the moment?
Oh, yes. I mean, but we all know. I mean, at the end of the day, Eric, John Dramani Mahama is super competent. When I say super, I mean, among all the three candidates, and we all know how credible John Dramani Mahama is. I mean, he has a solid track record that nobody, no leader in this country has ever beaten that track record. He has done so much. I mean, look at today, look at the infrastructure development, for instance, in Ghana here. From the time that he was vice president to the time he became president and all that kind of thing. Massive in 3 years. When he became president, look at what he did in 3 years, and look at that time, look at the exchange rate at that particular period. It was excellent. Look at that time, how much we were buying fuel. Very excellent. And look at today, look at how much we are buying fuel today at what, almost 13 point something Ghana cedis, what's it called, a liter. That is the super, right? The super, whatever they call it. And for John, I sometimes wonder, because, look, I'm a type that if I'm going in for a particular race and I know I cannot win that race, I'll not waste my time. I'll not waste my time, waste my energy. If for instance, look, I love Dufo very much. I respect him very much. I respect Kojo Bonsu very much. But I say this to them. All these monies that you guys are wasting, if you had channeled those monies, wallahi, to the NDC party, to the constituencies, to the branches, you make yourself a better name than contesting John Dramani Mahama, because you know at the end of the day, you're not going to beat that particular person. Look, in the last election, that was the 2020 election. Was it the 2016? Was it 2020 that we had about so many contestants?
2018,
it was 2019. Yeah. And I had some very good friends who were contesting.
Spio Gabra.
I had some very good friends. I don't want to mention their names.
Mensa,
I had some very good friends,
very
you know.
Strong
and
names.
I did advise them. I said, look, why are you going to waste your time? Why, at the end of the day? There's monies that John Dramani Mahama will go out there in the constituency to be campaigning. The monies that you are going to waste. If those monies were channeled into the branches to the constituency, buying motorbike, buying four-wheel drive pickups for the constituency, it will go a long way. It's far better for us at the end of the day. Why would they? If you know you're going for a race that you know you're not going to win, why do you waste your time?
But so at the end of the day, some have also said that the kind of message that is put across may come back to haunt the party because opponents may exploit it, even though it may not reflect the truth on the ground. I've heard Dr. Dufour recently talking about figures suggesting that John Mahama failed. I've heard Kojo Bonsu also make similar comments. They are your colleagues because you have all been in the same party when you were in government. How do you feel when you reflect on some of these comments?
It's just unfortunate. I mean, John has not failed this country. Everybody knows that. John has performed better than even the current president that we have here today. So what are they talking about? So why will you want to wash your dirty ladies at the end of the day in the public domain, knowing well that John has done so well for this great country of ours? That's why he's got that support base till today. It is John that they know. They don't know nobody. You know, it's just like Jerry's time. Nobody knows anybody apart from Jerry. You get what I'm trying to say? Whatever Jerry says,
they end it or it was planted on them because, for example, you see some personalities following some of the opponents of John Mahama, and they are creating the impression that maybe some people want to hijack the party, and that is the reason they are fighting him on the political platform.
Who wants to hijack the party? The party is bigger than any individual at the end of the day. You know, my main concern is what contribution are you going to make at the end of the day to make the party win the 2024 election? That is my question to everybody, every NDC member. What are you going to contribute? You know, you cannot sit down in your house there and be criticizing the NDC. Oh, NDC has done this. This person did this to Sami Shabi, this. But meanwhile, you are not doing nothing. You are not contributing nothing towards Victory Camp 2024. And we need everybody. Everybody needs to contribute his widow's mite at the end of the day. But for me, I say this, the party is greater than any individual. Like I told you earlier, someone called me, and we had to, mend whatever bridges that was there, the misunderstanding and all that kind of thing. And I want to move forward. I've forgotten what has happened. I want to move forward. My main concern is, look, seek the political kingdom first, and the rest shall be added. Okay. Everybody will have some of the piece of cake. Definitely, there's so much that the NDC can do for all the individuals, the grassroots, and there's so many positions. You have so many thousands that will be occupied by NDC members. So everybody needs to come on board. Everybody has to contribute his might towards Victory 2024. Look, you're not going to have only John Mahama. John Mahama cannot be everywhere at the same time in all the police stations, 40,000 police stations in Ghana. I mean, come on. We all have to help John Mahama to achieve his goals and aims for this great party of ours. If we're going to sit down, then it will be that.
Okay, my guest is Alhaji Said Sinari. Now, let's look at what will be the real challenge for the NDC going into the 2024 elections. They will be cooking their own meal and they'll be tasting it close to December 2024. And so I will share some figures with you. For example, if you look at what I'm sharing on the screen, this is the 2016 election result. And I am deliberately sharing this on the platform for you to look at the number of constituencies NDC won at the time. They were in government. They lost bitterly to the NPP. At the end of the day, the NDC had 106 parliamentary seats. NPP had a whopping 169 seats. NDC lost a number of seats. NPP gained a number of seats. And you see it on your right. I am bringing this to the attention, of course, to delegates, because this conversation will be of interest to the NDC largely, and of course to the MPP, which is monitoring closely what the NDC is doing in the various constituencies. Now, the next slide is helping you to look at the 2020 election results. Now, if you look at the 2020 election result, it also tells you how the NDC managed to win as many of the seats it lost to the MPP. And you see 137 there and 137. We all know on record that there was a time when the results were being collated that the NDC ran to the press to say they had won over 140 seats. And we know the story as to how come we have 137, how the courts have handled the issues. And as we speak, the NDC can only boast of 136 members of parliament. Now, apart from this, I've carefully analyzed the 2020 elections, and I've seen that a number of the seats that either the NDC won or the MPP won, the margins are very close. And that is what is going to inform our conversation for the next 30 minutes. And of course, I'll share a few with you. We'll take a break. When we come back, you'll notice it. For example, if you look at some of these seats that I am speaking to, many of them you can see, for example, if you look at the Ebuakwa North constituency, the margin is just around 2,000. So the producers can move on from time. So you move to the next one, which is the Ahafuanon North. You look at the figures. If you look at the figures, you notice that it is still very close. And then while the conversation is going on, we'll be sharing more. Akwetia, the NDC had, 19,000.
Close.
Is it 899? NPP 18,742. Move on to the next. So you go to Amenfi West, and of course, when we come back after the break, I've counted as many as my figures show, almost about 30 here, 30 seats. The results were very close. Some by margin of 300, 400. 250, 800, 750. Some were seats NPP have won before, some were seats NDC has taken. So it means that the candidates contesting for some of these seats, either as a result of the action by NDC executives in those constituencies, there will be apathy if the results don't reflect the will of the people, or godfathers of the party who are planting people on the candidates in some constituencies, or non-performing MPs who will maybe use money to influence people and may be retained, and for that reason people will be angry, or very competent MPs, and out of envy or jealousy somebody may influence delegates to vote them out. Whatever happens, the figures I'll share after this break will help you to take a decision if you want NDC to come to power in 2024. We'll take proceedings across the country as the party delegates go to elect. Next week, we'll be showing the faces of many of the candidates who will be contesting on Saturday, so that while we are having this conversation, you just carefully, please, when you show them, let them stay briefly on the screen, because this conversation, the next half, will be about what will be happening in the constituencies. For example, Takwa in Suayim, the NDC candidate had 31,845 in 2020. The NPP had 31,946. Don't forget, NDC was claiming at the time that they won that seat, but it was stolen. There was an independent candidate who also pulled 29,006. If that independent candidate doesn't go in 2024, it will have implications for both MPP and NDC going into the 2024 elections. So if you also, for example, don't forget that NDC was claiming they won that election. The case went to court against Dr. Kweku Afriyie. What are the figures? Paul Evans Edu had 28,947. Dr. Kweku Afriyie had 29,000 and Dr. Kweku Afriyie had 28,947, and then Paul Evans Edu of the NDC had 29,019. If you go to Amenfi West, for example, NDC's Eric Aful had 30,986. NPP's Abraham Kofi Asante had 28,330. 36. Juaboso, NDC, Kwabna Menta Akando, very outspoken, 22,304. MPP's Martha Menu, 19,199. Eskado Keten, this is another hotly contested seat because a number of faces have popped up and they'll be contesting Dr. Grace Ayensu, who did very well in 2020. Dr. Grace Ayensu had 24,527. MPP's Jogate, who has been the MP in the constituency since you were born, had 26,701. And it goes across Ableku, Ibuaka North, Akwetia, for example, NDC 19,899, MPP 18,742. Esutifi North, NPP had 18,505, NDC 16,546. Boku Central, Mahama Yarges area, NDC 25,490. Agbanina Biana Abugere had 23,166. Now, I'm sharing this with you, and let's come back to the studio so that I welcome my guest. But in the course of the conversation, producers, just keep sharing some of the data we are putting on the screen. Now, when you look at how close some of these constituency results are, and about 30, 40 of them, I took my time to go through the 2020 elections, 2016 elections. It means a lot for the NDC delegates as they go into the primaries on Saturday.
Eric, yeah, you're right. I'll say this. I mean, from where we came from in 2016, realize that in 2016 we had lost how many seats? About 50-something seats. We're down. 2016, we're down by 106, and they had 169.
Yes.
And come 2020, we shared 137. So you realize that we did so well as a party, because the unity in the party then, everybody was very, very hungry for that power. Everybody really contributed his widow's
In 2016, he lost 46 seats.
We lost 46 seats, exactly.
And in 2020, we won 31 seats.
So,
right.
so we did so well in 2020 compared to what we did in what's it called in 2016. You know, so I'll say this. Look, Eric, I'll say this to the delegates. I hope that
that's your camera.
Yeah, that's my camera. I hope that they're watching me very carefully. And some time back, there was this clip that they posted around, you know, all the media and all that. There was this function in Dome Kwabena. And I did warn the delegates.
This message will go fast, so I would prefer you speak through to the camera and just say it as
exactly.
it is.
So I'll say this to the delegates today. Look, we cannot afford, as a party, we can't afford to lose the 2024 elections. If we're going to lose the 2024 elections, then it is going to come from you, the delegates, because it is going to be your fault. I'll say this also. It's not about money. It's not about money. It's not about somebody being the highest bidder. So if somebody who comes out with the highest amount, that is the person that you're going to vote for, that is complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense. And I'll say this. They must hear this. Look, I'll tell you one thing. Look at a seat, for instance, Eric. I'll give you an example, for instance. How can we lose such a personality like Sam George, for instance? I mean, let's be very honest with ourselves. He's an asset to this great party of ours. When Sam George talks, the government shakes. He's always on point. So does it mean that if Sam George doesn't have what it takes, the money that he has to give to the delegates, that means you're going to kick him out simply because somebody out there who has that dough, and we know, it doesn't make sense at all. How on earth are you going to lose somebody like Sam George? How on earth are you going to lose somebody like Zenato, for instance? Also Clotier, for instance? Do you think it's only the NDC members who voted for Zenato? There was a very small, slim margin of MPP members who voted for her because they believed in her. And if Zenato should go off, if the delegates fail to vote for Zenato, I can bet you that this seat will go to the MPP. And I'm telling them that this is a big warning to them. Also, Kenya, the legacy of Jerry John Rawlings has to be on. It has to be on. We cannot afford to have what's it called? We can't afford to have Zinato lose the primaries. It's impossible. She's done so well for this constituency. She's done so well. I mean, she's the only member within the family that is keeping the flag of or the flames of a late father. You know. So look. Sam George, for instance, is somebody that I really respect. They must retain.
What you are saying in a nutshell is that delegates should first of all look at the capacity, competence, look at the popularity of the delegates.
Exactly.
But there could be some MPs who are virtually not popular because they have dug themselves in.
That's a fact. But I'm saying that there are a few of them that have not done well. Look, I've been an MP before. I know what it takes to be an MP. If you're going to be an MP, you're going to be that lazy. You are not always in touch with the people at the grassroots. You will lose your seat at the end of the day. You want to be like a team god? Forget about it. Look, that is why it is very important for every single member of parliament. When you go out for a break, or when parliament is on a break, touch base. You go out on a break for 2 months or whatever, take 2 weeks and touch base. Is
it not too late now?
Well, it's too late now. I'm saying that. But in the past, that's why they say you buy tomorrow before tomorrow comes. So you do your homework well from the beginning so that at the end, it will be easier for you to be retained. But we know at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, there are some very bad nuts. But I'm talking of the good nuts. You know, I'm talking of the Sam George, I'm talking of Zinato, I'm talking of Hanu Idrisu, I'm talking of Mutala Mohammed, I'm talking of Suhini and Jinapo.
So there are some who are actually demonstrating how they touch base with the people.
Oh yes, some. But I mean, someone like Haruna, for instance. I mean, Haruna.
Of course, Haruna everybody knows.
Look, Haruna, for me, I respect him. He's my far junior brother. I respect him so much. He's done so well. No, he's not a greedy or a selfish person. Haruna, for instance, has invested into the people in the northern region. Not the 3 northern regions. He has helped so many people, in their constituencies, individuals and all that. He's not a selfish person. And I respect him for that. You know, so for Haruna, is that kingdom come. He will be there forever as long as he wants that seat. He will remain there. If he doesn't want, that's a different ball game altogether. But for me, I see Haruna has really done well. That's why he hurts me, you know.
In 2016, and of course, in 2008, if you look at the political history and how parliamentary results have shown going into major elections, when candidates are planted on constituents, it has consequences.
Oh, yes.
Of course, there's also this perception about godfathers scheming for people to represent them.
Exactly.
And there are a number of constituencies I have here. I'm sure next week when we go to the second phase of our build-up for the live coverage. Now, if you look at the party leadership, for example, you have mentioned 1 or 2 just for the sake of this conversation. I know you have a tall list of people you consider as good MPs who are worthy of being retained.
Exactly.
How should leadership of the party, either from the top, at the regional level, at the constituent level, be seen to be engaging delegates to understand why somebody may be a right candidate? Because there's a caveat as to who should be seen to be actively campaigning or otherwise. But for many delegates, they may not know the impact or the import of some of the actions they'll be taking.
Eric, I always say this. You know, sometimes I hate to see certain personalities within the party, certain gurus, imposing certain candidates against the will of the people in the particular constituency. I don't think that is right at the end of the day. Let the people make their choices. You know, the constituency is there. They have delegates and all that. Let them do the right choices. Because for me, I feel that's why I said this to the delegates. I said, look, you go to weigh, you look at the candidate, you look at his performance, you know, how good he is. You know, it's a package. Like what you said, you mentioned so many. You know, it's a package. You look at the person's charisma, you look at the person's competence, you look at the person's humanity and everything. You know, and if you see the person is good and the person is capable of championing the party's cause, why don't you vote for the person? Why would you want to wait for Mr. B or Mr. C to give you monies to influence you and to vote for the wrong candidate at the end of the day? When come 2024, then we're going to lose the seat. It's the example that I gave you. Also, Clotte, for instance.
Okay, so now let's look at this. You and me, we want to contest for Ketu South, for example. you don't have money, you are a poor man.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But you are very influential. You can mobilize people. You are the ordinary boy on the street.
Exactly.
And then I am
the rich person.
The rich Alaji.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm praying to be like you. The rich Alaji. That's just for the purpose of the conversation.
Yeah.
Who
I know where you're coming from.
Who is competent because I am highly educated.
Yeah.
If a delegate finds him or herself under such circumstance, what should influence his vote?
If I'm the delegate, I'll vote for
the poor Alaji.
For the poor Alaji.
Because you can mobilize.
You can mobilize the people. And that is what is very important for.
So it means that delegates going into the primaries have a huge task.
Oh, they have.
With just 10 days left.
Oh, yeah, they have. They should be very, very careful because they are going to do or undo the party at the end of the day. If they elect the wrong candidates, we are going to suffer the consequences. And look at the figures that you are giving us. For instance, about 40 constituencies or whatever. The margins are very, very slim.
Very, very, very slim.
So if care is not taken...
I'll pray that they continue with the rest that people have not seen so far.
If care is not taken at the end of the day, we will suffer the consequences. So I tell the delegates, look, I beg them in the name of Allah. I beg them in the name of Allah. I beg them in the name of Allah. We just finished this holy month of Ramadan just about 2 weeks ago. They should go out there and do the right thing. It's not about money. It's not about somebody going to give you the highest amount of money that you're going to vote for that person. No. You go to
what could be, I tried to highlight it in my preamble, the consequences of the primaries you are holding next Saturday. The MPP has carefully looked at the 2016 elections. My close associates within the party told me that informed their strategy into 2020. 2020, what they expected actually didn't materialize. And so they've sat down to look at the 2020 election results, and that is what is informing why the EC is attempting to introduce a CI so that they could use that as a subtle, I don't want to use that word, as a clever way to keep some of the numbers down to their advantage. Again, we're also picking signals that EC may create new constituencies and there'll be some kind of gerrymandering that may go on in favor of some regions which may be strongholds of some political parties. Now, when delegates go to the polls on Saturday, knowing very well that the incumbent party will wait for the results to inform how they strategize on the ground to feed on NDC's shortfalls should things go bad in some constituencies, how should they be informed going forward and coming out of the elections?
I'll say this. Look, it doesn't look too good for the ruling party. That's why I said earlier in my submission that on paper today, it looks very excellent for this great party of ours. But if care is not taken, today we can have the best candidates. You can have the best flag bearer. You can have the best MPs. You can have the best national executives or regional or constituencies or whatever. If you don't do what is right at the D-Day, then we will suffer the consequences come 2024. This is my take. We need to do a lot of work. And that's why I said earlier, the police stations, the coalition centers. Now, you tell me, if we're able to mobilize our people in the coalition centers, in their thousands, and even they bring all the security apparatus, whatever, even with guns and all that, do you think they're going to fire 1,000 or 2,000 people at the coalition center?
So vigilantism.
Exactly. We need to be very, very vigilant. If we are not vigilant in the police stations and the coalition centers, then we are doomed as a party. That is for me, look, that is the key to everything, to our success come 2024. It's not about candidate A or candidate B or whatever. You can have the best of all the best.
Some say it will be like a communal labor.
Oh yes, you have to. They have to. Look, every single NDC member, if I say this with passion, that if you say you love the NDC party and you say you want John Omani Mama to be our flag bearer, then contribute your widow's mite come 2024. Don't go out there and sleep. The day of you voting in 2024, stay stay there, eat at the police station.
The same thing, as you say, happened in 2008.
Oh, yeah.
People voted and they stayed there.
I was a polling agent.
And when the results were being counted,
Eric,
they were there
in
and
2028, I was a polling agent. So
2008.
So it shows how we were hungry for power.
Now,
you understand what I'm trying to say?
We have about 5 minutes left.
Yes,
because you are the founder of the Zongo Caucus.
Yes.
Just recently, Ben Epson, who many say has lost his credibility as somebody many refer to as a pollster, was creating the impression that the NDC doesn't have or has lost its base, i.e. the Zongo community, and even went to the extent of saying that the party has never chosen somebody from the Muslim community either as a candidate or the vice, and they quickly referred him to Alhaji Muhammad Mumini. But when you hear such comments, and being somebody who founded the Zongo Caucus, what is getting missing, and what do you think you in particular would want to champion if you are given the opportunity or otherwise?
I'll say this, Eric. The Zongo is NDC, and the NDC is Zongo. For that support base in the Zongo, it will forever remain, because they are so committed to the party.
Are you not losing it to this Zongo Development Fund or Zongo Ministry?
No, really. I mean, when you look at the numbers that we got from 1992 till, I'll say to 2000, we're hitting the margin between 95 and 97%. Now we're talking of about 87%, which is not too bad, but we don't need to go down below that particular, but there's a lot that we need to do. And you know how politics is. People go there, influence, what's it called? Our support base with monies and all. All that kind of thing. So there's a lot that has to be done. You understand what I'm trying to say? But for Ben, for instance, for me, I like you said earlier, for me, I don't want to waste my time in talking about Ben Epson, because he's somebody who has lost credibility. He's lost it totally. And all his predictions, you name what, in the past. He's not the Ben Epson that we know in the past. Present Ben Epson, for me, I don't even want to talk about him at all. He's a very good friend of mine. We went to school together and all that. But I'll just end it up here.
Okay, so with just some few minutes to go, if you had the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians, and of course, by extension, your party, what would you say?
Well, I'll tell them this, that they should do justice, not only the NDC members, but Ghanaians as a whole, that come 2024, they must give the NDC the mandate to come back to power. If they don't do that, then this country will be doomed forever. We've seen how people are suffering today. Look at the masses. Look at the inflations, for instance. Look at the debt that this government has put up on us today. I mean, look at from John Mahdi Mohammed's time. How much did John Mahdi Mohammed?
About 120
About
billion.
120 billion. That was the whole total from independence till the day that he handed over. Today we are talking of over 600 billion Ghana cedis. That is very, very huge. When are we going to pay those monies, my brothers and sisters? So, my Ghanaian people, look, you go out there, when you see a government that is messing up, that is so corrupt, kick them out. Vote them out and bring an alternative, and that alternative is the great NDC party. So, this is it.
My guest this evening is Alhaji Said Senari, very, very popular, very outspoken.
Did you touch on a crow
Krowo.
Constituency.
Yes, of course. It is also part of, you have Pram, Ketu North. You know, Ketu North, we have about 7 or 6 fine candidates. Then Ododo Diodio, Nilante Vanderpool is not going. I'm told Ablekuma North. I'm talking about Okankwe South, Setria, Frank Plains, Asawase, for example, Muntakes area. Krowo,
but the Krowo, I think there will be a big surprise in Krowo.
Okay.
You know, I think there will be a big surprise.
You want to be beneficent of NDC?
Yes, I want to be beneficent of NDC. I think there will be a big surprise in Krowo.
All right.
There will be a shocker.
Okay.
You know, but in Asawasi, I personally, me, I want Muntaka to be retained.
Okay. All right. And then,
you know, we can't afford to lose those experienced, very competent ones in Parliament. We can't.
Which would also mean that if there are some differences, the leadership of the party has to work fast to address them.
I mean, some of them who want to just become members of Parliament just for the sake of it. When you give them the mic to even talk, you know, to thousands of people on the platform, they shake. They can't.
It also depends on how some of those MPs have carried themselves over the years.
Well, it depends too. But I mean, somebody like Muntaka, for instance, I tell them they should give him the chance to
okay, so this is free.
Well, that's my opinion.
That's your opinion,
you know, and I hope I hope I haven't hurt anybody.
No, of course. But of course,
if I have, then they should forgive me then.